Welcome to the audio newsletter for the 14th of September 2022, presented by me, Michelle, and Sarah.
The CEO message this fortnight discussed the industry's chronic shortage of drivers and how it has been put under the microscope. Minister for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government, Catherine King, hosted a roundtable on the 25th of August as part of the lead up to the Albanese government's Jobs and Skills Summit on the 1st and 2nd of September. Many solutions were tabled and it was evident there was a spirit of collaboration. Changes to migration setting were close to the top of the list, and NatRoad made the point that accreditation and consistent standards must go hand in hand with this.
The top story of our newsletter was Tell Us Your Policy Hotspots. Members have the opportunity to outline their policy concerns and propose actions that NatRoad can take to the upcoming NatRoad conference. We would love to hear from members for input into what they would like to see addressed. Please send proposed motions to consider to info@natroad.com.au by the 7th of October 2022. Include your name, policy issue you'd like addressed, and a motion to be put forward. Please see the newsletter for a template to use.
The next story was about the ACCC casting a spotlight on fuel retailers. The ACCC has been examining fuel retailers who failed to pass on the federal government's cut in excise. The Commission blames record international prices for crude oil and refined petrol driven by demand, production cuts by Russia and the OPEC cartel, and war in Ukraine for high prices. There are several steps NatRoad members can take when the federal government suspends its reduction in excise after the 29th of September, and they will be discussed in the free 21 September webinar with tax experts Chris Sant and Jordan LaRusso from Ryan. To register or for more information on this webinar, please visit the events page on the NatRoad website. You'll hear how you can claim your full fuel tax credit entitlement, including how to optimize claims for bulk fuel tanks, whilst receiving practical tips on claiming your full entitlement prospectively.
The Prime Minister has announced a National Day of Mourning for Queen Elizabeth II to be held on 22 September 2022. This is a one-off public holiday and raises questions about award provisions. Under the National Employment Standards, a public holiday includes any day that is declared by the relevant state or territory governments. If you are a full or part-time employee or a casual performing work on a public holiday, or the employer of people who are, see the article on our website for full details about requirements.
Another story in our newsletter looked at what someone can deduct if an employee did not work their notice period. This is a common question from members wanting to know their rights. Most awarded employment contracts require employees to give notice when they resign. It is best practice to ask employees to provide their notice of resignation in writing. The period of notice will vary depending upon how long they have been in continuous service with the employer. If the employee does not work their notice, an employer may deduct an amount equal to 1 week's wage from hours worked, owing to the employee at termination. If the employee agreed to it in writing, or if the deduction is authorized by the employee's modern award or industrial agreement and the employee is over 18, and the deduction is not considered to be unreasonable. For example, if they could not reasonably work the notice due to hospitalization. The 1 week wages deduction cannot be made from any statutory entitlements like annual leave, superannuation, or other accruals, only from wages due.
Another notice that members should be aware of is that COVID isolation rules have changed again. From 9 September 2022, the National Cabinet reduced the isolation period for people who have tested positive for COVID-19 from 7 days to 5. If you still have symptoms or work in high-risk settings with vulnerable people, such as workers in aged care homes and the disability care sector, you will still have to isolate yourself for 7 days. Refer to our COVID bulletin on the NatRoad website for full details.
The newsletter covers another question from members. What should I do when an enforcement camera is wrong? We've heard from members who have received infringement notices because a driver was allegedly committing an offence by not wearing a seatbelt when, in fact, they were. Some Kenworth truck models were manufactured and sold with only a lap-sash seatbelt, without an over-the-shoulder 3-point seatbelt system being required. Australian design rules, ADRs, provide for national standards for vehicle safety. The ADR, in operation from 1 January 2000 through 30 June 2008, required the driver's position to have a retractable lap belt. From 1 January 2015, ADR 4/05 required all models have a lap and sash seatbelt over the shoulder 3-point seatbelt system. This creates an issue when road enforcement cameras use artificial intelligence software to filter images to detect failure to wear a seatbelt. So what should you do if you are fined, but you were wearing a lap sash seatbelt? Generally, you should dispute the fine within 28 days of the date of the infringement notice or risk penalties for an overdue fine. Download a high-resolution image and determine if you can visually confirm the driver was wearing a seatbelt. Information on how to download the high-res image is located on the notice. If you then consider the fine is incorrect, obtain a letter from the truck's manufacturer via the dealership requesting a VIN-specific letter that says what type of seatbelt it came with out of the factory. Write and request a review from the issuing authority because the vehicle only needed a retractable lap belt, supported by a letter from the manufacturer and including a copy of the infringement notice.
The last item in our newsletter covers changes to demerit access in New South Wales. Registered heavy vehicle operators in New South Wales can now access their driver's demerit points balance for a period of 12 months, providing they have each truckie's consent. The changes took effect this week and means that operators will be able to work with consenting drivers to address potential safety or loss of fines issues early. We'd like to remind members that if you have questions regarding anything in our newsletters, do not hesitate to contact NatRoad at 1-800-272-144 or info@natroad.com.au. Keep an eye out for the full stories, which will be posted on our website over the next week, or if you remember, check your email for full details and links. We would like to thank our sponsor, DAF, and the Packer and Dealer Industry Fund for their ongoing support.